Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Buckeye Politics. It's me, your favorite Ohioan. Today, we will be looking at the second state in the Road to the Majority series, a series where I will be analyzing the Republican Party's path to a Senate majority in 2024 by taking an in-depth look at individual states. On the off chance you didn't see the title, today we'll be going to the Great Plains by looking at the great state of Montana. Montana has recently become a Republican stronghold in the overwhelmingly conservative Great Plains region. That said, Montana is not nearly as Republican-leaning as its neighbors. Idaho, to Montana's west, for example, voted for Donald Trump by more than 30 percentage points. Wyoming, which borders much of southern Montana, voted for Donald Trump by 43 percentage points. In the 2020 election, Donald Trump won Montana by just 16 percentage points. This was actually an improvement over past Republicans, as Mitt Romney only won Montana by 13 percentage points in 2012, and John McCain nearly lost the state in 2008, winning by just 2 percentage points. Montana also has a history of being more left wing on social issues. In 2020, for example, 56% of Montana voters supported a bill to legalize marijuana in the state. Montana also made headlines in 2022 when 52% of the state voted against a referendum that would have forced doctors to provide medical care to infants who survived abortions, basically legalizing infanticide. Absolutely disgusting. On the flip side, however, Montana has some of the most lax gun laws anywhere in the country. The state's governor signed constitutional carry into law in 2021, and Montana is top three in terms of firearm ownership per household, with more than 60% of people in the state owning at least one firearm. Remember this statistic, it'll be important later. To summarize, Montana is probably one of the most libertarian states. When it comes to social issues, they really don't care, and if anything, are actually pretty left leaning. On guns and economics, however, Montana is staunchly conservative. This observation seems to line up with Montana's electoral history. The last time Montana voted for a Democrat on the presidential level was 1992, when Bill Clinton narrowly carried the state. This election was the second time since the end of World War II Montana voted Democrat. During the 1930s and 40s, Montana was staunchly Democratic and loved President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the New Deal. Montana is a very working class state with lots of farms and mines. FDR really helped the state get back on track during and after the Great Depression. This brings us to 2006, when the Democratic Party seemed poised to win massive victories in the midterm elections. George W. Bush's approval was at an all-time low, and Democrats seemed to have an edge in most swing states. Incumbent Republican Senator Conrad Burns of Montana had a low approval rating due to some scandals, but was running for re-election. His opponent was Montana State Senator Jon Tester. Most pollsters has the race as a toss-up, with polls going back and forth throughout the election cycle. As election day neared, Conrad Burns seemed to expand on his lead, and it looked like he would win. The selection ended up coming down to the wire, but in the end, Jon Tester, the Democrat, won by just 3,000 votes, or 0.88%. Tester ran as a grassroots campaign and promised to be a moderate Democrat who wouldn't forget his roots as a farmer. His local and centrist messaging won over many voters who were turned off by Burns scandals. Throughout the first 6 years in the Senate, Jon Tester is mostly a party-line Democrat, although he did break with his party on certain issues. Tester supported building the Keystone Pipeline, opposed some forms of immigration, and environmental regulations that he thought would hurt his farmers. That said, Tester did vote for Obamacare and side with the Democrats on the vast majority of issues. In 2012, Tester was up for re-election against well-funded Republican Congressman Denny Rehberg. Tester countered his opponent by painting him as an elitist, as he was being funded mostly by Wall Street donations and super PACs. Due to Barack Obama's poor approval in Montana and polls showing Jon Tester down, most election analysts had the race as a Republican pickup. On election night, however, Jon Tester defied the odds and won re-election, receiving 48.6% of the vote. Republican Denny Rehberg received 44.9% of the vote, and the Libertarian Dan Cox, no, not that one, Dan Cox, the Libertarian, ran on a Ron Paul-style campaign, and most believe he played spoiler in the election, as if you took all the Libertarian votes and gave them to the Republicans, Denny Rehberg would have beaten Jon Tester. Jon Tester proved to be a thorn in Donald Trump's side during his presidency. Tester bucked the party line less and less often, and at this point was basically a generic Democrat. Jon Tester was a fierce opponent of Trump in the Senate, which led many to believe he would lose re-election. However, as we're going to see, Tester would defy the odds yet again. The 2018 midterms were expected to be an absolute disaster for the Republican Party. Donald Trump had a relatively low approval rating nationwide, and most polls showed Democrats taking back the House of Representatives. This meant Republicans needed to hold the Senate, or Trump's agenda would be sure to be at a standstill. Montana was seen as a prime target by the GOP. The state had voted for Donald Trump by 20.5 percentage points in 2016, and Jon Tester would have lost his previous election if the vote wasn't split. As such, both parties poured millions into the state, and Trump personally visited 4 times. The Republicans nominated state auditor Matt Rosendale, who ran as an ally of Trump. Tester was unopposed in the Democratic primary, as the Democrats knew they had to unite around him to hold the seat. Polls showed the race neck and neck, with Tester maintaining a very narrow lead. Most pollsters had the race as a toss up. In the end, Tester would defy the odds for a third time and defeated Matt Rosendale by 3.6 percentage points, receiving 50.33% of the vote. Tester was propelled to victory by Native Americans and college educated voters. He did very well in Montana cities like Helena, Missoula, and Great Falls. The 2024 Montana Senate race will be very interesting. Jon Tester has become an increasingly left wing senator who, despite the GOP's best efforts, simply just won't lose. In order to take him down in 2024, we need to understand why. Until recently, Tester has been a strong opponent of gun control. He has used this issue wisely as he knows it's something his state will agree with him on. At the same time, Tester has been a social liberal, supporting marijuana legalization and abortion. He realizes what issues his voters care about and plays his hand to appeal to them. In 2012, Tester only won because the Libertarians split the vote. Republicans need to realize that in order to bring Tester down, they need a candidate who can appeal to that more libertarian leaning base. Attack Tester for his recent support of gun control and his staunch opposition to Trump, and as Trump will likely be on the same ballot in 2024. Cast abortion and other social issues to the side, or at least don't make them top issues for their candidate's platform. Thus far, 3 Republicans have expressed interest in running against Tester. They are Congressman Ryan Zinke of Montana's 1st Congressional District, Montana Governor Greg Gianforte, and Matt Rosendale, a congressman from Montana's new 2nd District who ran against Tester in 2018. All 3 of these candidates are good options, but I have my preferences. Ryan Zinke of Montana's 1st District has some scandals and underperformed polling expectations in 2020, only winning by 3 percentage points in a district Trump won by close to 10. Zinke is good, but I worry about his electoral chances as Tester has defied the odds before. If he ran, I would obviously support him, but I do think we have better options. Greg Gianforte, the governor of Montana, is a solid choice, but I think he would be better to remain governor. He has done a great job in his position and is well liked, so if he ran, I would obviously support him, but I personally think he should continue to work at the state level for now. This brings us to Congressman Matt Rosendale. I support Matt Rosendale in a rematch against Tester. Rosendale was relatively unknown in 2018 when he went up against Tester and was outspent by more than 3 to 1. The Democratic Party poured tens of millions into the race, while Rosendale was left to work with just $6 million. That said, he kept the polls close in a very poor environment for Republicans nationwide. Rosendale has gotten more experience and name recognition as a congressman and actually outperformed expectations in his 2022 congressional election. Rosendale's district comprises rural eastern Montana. This part of the state is more Republican leaning, but Tester has done well enough here to win. If Matt Rosendale is the nominee, I would expect him to run up the margins in eastern Montana, which would even out Tester's strength in the western, more urban parts of the state. If Rosendale capitalizes on Tester's support for gun control and his undying loyalty to Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, I see no reason he would lose. Jon Tester was a Democrat of old. He represents what the Democratic Party used to be: rural, pragmatic, and patriotic. Unfortunately, he, like the party he serves in the Senate, has fallen away from that. The Democrats no longer hold rural or working class people's best interests at heart, and it is imperative we take Jon Tester down in 2024. And with the right candidate and a solid campaign, I believe it can be done.